Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Tower of God Chapter 441, or Season 3, Episode 24. So I actually had a lot of fun with this one. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed reading it again real quick to take notes. Honestly, it feels like a lot happened, yet it wasn't like that super deep or anything, so there's not any like really big, heavy things to discuss, but there are a lot of smaller, lighter, more fun things to talk about, I guess. Just in general, I liked it, I had fun with it. But either way, to go through it from start to finish, we start off where we left off, with Gato challenging Bomb, and he uses Dang Dang's heart as leverage. That's his way of getting Bomb to agree to it is, I'll tell you where Dang Dang's heart is if you can beat me. So that's his leverage there, and I like that next we see Paul challenging Karaka in order to stall him or to hold him back from getting involved in helping Bomb out. Which is really cool to see. It's cool to see that side, that group, because we haven't seen it too much from them yet. It's good to see them actually, making smart moves, flipping the rules in their favor, doing things like that, since the rules were made by Karaka to favor Karaka, or to take a chance that it would favor him. It's cool to see them flipping the rules, them being smart. It builds them up as villains more. Which is something we haven't necessarily seen so far in the arc. And then as Gato starts to attack Bomb with Rack trying to block it and everything, we have Kanzone come in and absolutely stiff arm him. And I put it in my notes later on as a bullet point, but I can bring it up now that so much of this chapter, there were a lot of scenes that the scene itself was really cool as far as Kanzone goes, but Kanzone's kind of goofy, not very cool design takes me out of it. Where there are so many scenes like him saying, or him realizing that sometimes even if you can't win a fight, you need to try anyway, or him coming in with that stiff arm, or later when the claw is evaporating off his arm and he's like, no, I'm going to beat you right here, right now for the first and last time. I'm like, that would be so freaking cool, so friggin' raw if just he had a cool design. If his design was like, Paul has a pretty cool design. If his design was at least 75% as cool as Paul's, it would just be so freaking cool to see him in this situation. But his kind of I've called it goofy a lot. His kind of goofy design kind of takes you out of it. The scenes themselves are cool, but if his design was cool, man, I'd be fully behind Kanzone so much. But we then get to a flashback to explain what happened with Lulu, explain that Kan Hong is alive, which is cool, and going from them to Kanzone, we see him thinking to himself, well, if Yama's asleep, then I'm our only hope of stopping them. And I lost. I lost to Gato. I've never beaten Gato. So if I'm the only hope, and I've already lost, and there's probably going to be more strong opponents, then we're screwed. And he's just falling into that despair. But Kan Hong gives him a pep talk, of course, and gives him the flame that saved her. So she collapses, knocked out, probably still going to survive, though. Her dying there would be kind of a cool sacrifice, but I'm assuming she's going to survive. That would make, more sense to me in the moment here. So Kanzone's back up, goes into fight and all that. We have a translation change of Berdish to Verdici, which again, it would help if there were translators' notes like sort of a lot of translations and scanlations have. Now I will say that I'm not going to talk on it too much, but the translation had just a lot of just simple mistakes this week. But either way, I'm not going to really talk about that too much because that doesn't really have to do with the content of the chapter itself. So yeah, I actually like all of this storyline kind of just because it would have been very simple, and it would have been what I expected for them to just say, Kan Hong's dead, and we never see her again, never come back to her. Or for them to be like, I figured Jalulu would come back in eventually, or for them to pretty much never come back to Kanzone in any important way. But to actually have their stories be important, have their stories come back into play and play a role right now, is really good. It's something that, again, if you're able to exceed expectations, no matter how low expectations are set, if you're able to exceed them, that's always a good thing. So yeah, I think that it's good that we could have very easily and very predictably just not come back to these characters, but the fact that we did come back to these characters and they are getting to play a more important role in the future, at least for right now, is good. So from there is something else I actually really like. Doom offering Bomb just the K9 people power and Yama's position. It's really interesting actually, and they're kind of making me like Doom here. The way that he's trying to manipulate Bomb like this. Because he sees the potential in him, and he's willing to try to use that to his own advantage and throw him away when he doesn't need him anymore. Because directly after this, and as an aside really quick, Rat calling him Puppy Turtle is hilarious, because like I said before, like Paul, you imagine him as like this sort of sleek, really fast dog, like maybe a greyhound or something, and then Yama's just this like tough, this fighter, this pit bull, and then Doom just gives me the image of this little chihuahua or little Pomeranian or some sort of puppy, like small lapdog, is the image I get from Doom. So it's hilarious that Rat calls him Puppy Turtle. But we go straight from Doom offering him that power to a flashback from Yama remembering him and a younger Doom and Paul. Where he remembers Doom just making K9 people and throwing them away just as easily, because to him, the only K9 people are the three of them, and everyone else is disposable. So even though he says Bomb could take Yama's place, I don't even know if I believe him. I think he would just use Bomb, give the K9 power to him, and then plan to control him with the Fang or throw him away when he didn't need him anymore. Because I think even with his disagreements or his opposition to Yama right now, I still think if Doom had the option, he would still view Yama as a brother. He would still view Yama as a person where you and Paul are valuable, everyone else is disposable. So, I actually think Doom's character is being handled really interesting lately. Just like I mentioned last chapter with him sitting back and observing things and paying attention to what's going on around him, rather than just sort of jumping to conclusions or yelling a bunch or being overly arrogant or anything. He's thinking things through and making smart plays, which I think is cool. I think it's better. So from there, Jordan just snipes the bomb out the air real quick. Just snipes the nuke like it's nothing. All he has to do is get Rolmon to help him with his observers, takes it out, and I love it because it's like, it didn't even take much time out of his day. He was running. Oh, here's this dangerous thing. Let me snipe it real quick. Okay, let me keep going. It was so great how just quick it was. And I think it's good because there are two ways that this whole hostage with the bomb situation could have been handled. Either we draw it out, we use it as a way to have Kel-Helem get involved and Yama still be like, I can't attack, I have my hands tied right now, and we drag that on a bit, and there are some pluses to doing it that way and some negatives to doing it that way, because some people won't want to see it dragged out, but it could be a really interesting story. Getting Kel-Helem involved, keeping Yama in a way where he can't attack yet, so then when he finally can, it's really, really cool. So there are some, like, pros and cons to that, but the way they did it, there are definitely some pros and cons too as well. We just get straight into having Yama go after Mule and be cool and all. We get a really good moral of the story with Yama's character. We get a lot of good things out of this, and there are some cons to it too, I guess, in that the other way could have been really interesting as well, but I like the way this was handled generally, because I think Yama's character before, there were some people complaining a little bit. Most people generally liked Yama, including myself, but there were some people complaining that, you know, why does he care so much? It isn't really the cool badass slayer thing to care about other people. But one thing I really, really like about it is that it's not that just he's good morally and doesn't want to see innocent people die or anything, but there's also something he gets out of it in addition to that, where the moral of the story here is that if you take care of them, dogs will always repay you. So I love that. He took care of and protected his people, and because of that, his people are loyal to him. He doesn't need to control them with the Fang like Doom does. They're loyal because he cares about them, because he has protected them and taken care of them. So yeah, it's really, really cool, and he gives his whole King of the Dogs line, which is awesome. I love it. Yama's character has really, really carried this arc. Is incredibly interesting. Like I said, I love that he was sort of a thoughtful guy, a bit, I don't want to say remorseful, but sort of a somber, calmer guy. He puts on this air of being just this big, tough, rabid dog, but really he's thinking about what's best for his people. He doesn't seem necessarily like a bad person when it comes down to it. And there's a lot of really cool nuance to his character, and it's great and adds so much in to see that all this nuance added into his character is important because it also explains, like, why would he do it if it's completely selfless? Well, it's selfless, but it also benefits him because selflessness has a benefit of people like wanting to repay that. So it's great. It's so good. I really, really love Yama's character. Yama's character is like one shining light through this arc. Where other things have been good and bad, Yama's character has just generally been great. But yeah, we got some stuff in the blog post to talk about too. So Siu said he wasn't sure at first if he should spend just this full chapter doing the flashback and the Gato and Kanzone storyline, because there's going to be more to that. But he says that he likes to spread things out more and not focus on one single character too much. Maybe, I know Bomb's the main character, but maybe he should kind of take that approach with Bomb, because it feels like there are some times when we focus on Bomb for chapters and chapters and chapters at a time and nobody else. And when it would be nice to see some side characters here and again. But this comes into like something that I said a few weeks ago, where I like the way that Tower of God's paced, where we jump around a bunch, we see a bunch of different stuff, so even if there are certain characters or certain things you're not into as much, you get a little bit of them, and then you get a little bit of the characters and storylines you are really into. So I like that pacing. But I had wondered maybe if we sort of had a chapter-to-chapter thing where each chapter focuses just on one of the storylines. Could that make it better, or would that make it less good? But here we're kind of seeing Siu specifically say the reasons why he likes to do it the way it is, where he just jumps around a lot. Siu also says that Kun's revival power is very limited, and we've kind of seen that already. Or heard that already, and it seems like a situation where, since it seemed like Kanhong got some of it to revive or heal her, and she passed on what was left to Kanzone, it seems like a finite thing. It seems like it's not going to be something infinite that Kun can just keep losing or keep using. It seems like it's going to be something where he got a certain amount of the leftover flame from Yian Woon, and that leftover flame he can pass a bit out to revive people or to make Berdish stronger, but eventually it's just a resource that he's going to run out of. It's not a permanent/infinite thing. It's something that he can run out of, is the way that I think I see it from the way that Siu's talked about it, which is interesting and cool. He also mentions that he originally wanted to call Yama leader of the dogs rather than king of the dogs. I don't know what the difference in distinguishment would be in Korean, but at least in English, I'm really glad they went with king of the dogs, because it sounds so much better than leader of the dogs, like infinitely better than leader of the dogs. That sounds much less cool. And he also is sure to point out here something I think most people knew, but he's saying that Zahard is king of the tower, but there are other groups out there, or like races or countries or whatever out in the tower, that are all under the umbrella of Zahard's empire, that each have their own sort of king figures. So again, I feel like it's something we all knew, that there were probably multiple groups out there that had their own sort of kings, even though Zahard was the king of the tower. Even though the whole king of the tower thing is sort of self-proclaimed. But either way. So yeah, chapter as a whole, I thought it was fun, funny. I think some of the things that I found funny may have not all been purposefully funny, but I just generally enjoyed it and liked it and had fun with it. As a score, I would give it 8 Kings of the Dogs out of 10. So yeah, I thought it was fun, I had fun with it, and I hope you did too. So thank you so much for watching the video. Like if you did like the video, and comment down there too. Tell me what you thought of this chapter and what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Subscribe for more Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. If you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord about this series or anything else, then just ask and I can give you a link. It's free and open for anyone. And if you'd like to help support the channel, keep it going on Patreon. A link to the Patreon will be in the description. And patrons get to suggest and vote on series for the channel on Sundays every 3 months. And the first one that they voted in is Assassination Classroom, the anime. So yeah, we're doing that on Sundays now. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you all next time.